we'll sort of kick off with some introductions, and then we'll dive into a bit of your background and story and kind of how you got to where you are. The thought here is, if people can see how your guys' journey was and what that looked like, everyone sort of meanders in some way or another. If we can share some of that, then also, if there's something really interesting that you want to share, we can go that direction too. But I thought we'd start with your story, and then we can kind of dive off from there. That works?
Okay. Kind of a warm-up.
If one of you guys wants to go first, that'd be awesome. Oh, and I'll say this. We're at AGC of Wyoming here at Little America, doing a podcast talking about workforce challenges and just talking about our stories and as it relates to trying to solve some of this workforce challenge. So,
okay. Well, my name is Jason Tystad. I'm with S&S Builders. Coming up in February, I'll have been there 20 years. I did go the college route. I got a construction management degree from South Dakota State. Immediately went to work for S&S right after graduation and been there ever since. I remember early on in the days at S&S, there were stacks of applications, and you got to sort through them and pick the best. And now we're just, Kenny and I recognize this need. Whoa, when did we start working on this? 12 years ago? 10 years ago?
2008.
Yeah, okay, so we're coming up on close to 17 years. We identified this pretty early and started working on it with a different organization in town, and kind of transitioned into the AGC workforce division in Gillette, and that's about it.
Rest is history.
Rest is history.
That's awesome.
I mean, we talked about a lot of the things Serena did today. Different programs we've done through the years, and pretty proud of the work we've done.
That's great. That's great. Kenny, if you want to give kind of your name, what company you're with, and
Yeah, so I'm Kenny. I'm with DRM. I'm definitely a non-traditional path, I guess you'd say. So we're family owned. I'm part of the third generation of ownership in the company. So I was basically born and bred construction. After high school, I went off to college. I went to UTI in Phoenix and made it a trimester down there. They didn't do summer breaks. They just did 3 trimesters. So I made it a trimester and wasn't loving that. So I decided to come back home and go back to work for the company, and just have worked our way up from the bottom. So I officially started in 2000. So I've been at it 25 years, I guess. But we started at the bottom and work our way up through the company. And like Jason said early on, we kind of recognized the fact that we needed to start doing stuff to get the next generation prepared and ready and interested in the trades and break the stigma. And so that's been a big focus of ours is changing the stigma around the construction industry and what it means to be a contractor. And yeah, we've done a lot of good things up in the Campbell County area and expanded out statewide here in the last handful of years. And yeah, we're very proud of what we've done and accomplished up there. Yeah,
it's great. Toby, would you mind sharing a little your backstory?
Yeah, just real quickly, I grew up in Cape Cod, started commercial fishing when I was standing on a milk carton to steer. Did it through my early 20s. Bunch of different little adventures, but I ended up buying a very small printing company during the digital transition and grew it to a pretty good sized company, and we sold it. And that led to another discovery about trying to create print on demand around the world. So I ended up raising a lot of venture capital, and we created a company that had 139 locations around the world, so we could print anywhere, like next day, same day, and we sold that to Mimeo.com. Got involved in executive coaching, did a turnaround, and kind of wanted to escape, and Wyoming was on the radar, so we moved here, I guess 5-6 years ago now, and built a house for a couple of years, and then got itchy, got introduced to Josh, and so I get to have fun like this again, use my brain.
And somewhere in there you got your contractor's license, is that right?
I did, yeah. I was involved in construction really early on as well, and so I've done it all. That allowed me to build my house, so.
Pretty cool.
I've always kind of been drawn to physical stuff you can see at the end of the day. So, building stuff.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'll share some of my background, and then we'll kind of just start talking about wherever we want to take it, but talking about the next generation and what it looks like to try to attract them and so forth. But I grew up in Sheridan. My dad was in the sugar beet industry. And so sugar beet seed is what brought us to Sheridan, Holly seed. And I sort of grew up with him encouraging me to own my own business, do my own thing. It was just kind of constant. I think actually, part of it was when I was about 6, my mom had a heart attack and survived, lived, but it made my dad very cautious to leave. And he always kind of wanted to more do his own thing. But he stayed at the company for 30 years. But he always encouraged me, like, go do your own thing, work for yourself, do your own thing. And so that kind of just, I almost just was like, I didn't really think of it being any other path. It was like, okay, that's what I'll do. So I kind of became passionate about owning my own business and skiing. We made ski movies in high school, sophomore, junior, senior year, kind of little Warren Miller style things, but telling stories, capturing progression, just pushing harder, building jumps over the highway. Anyone that wanted to be in the movies, we'd put them in, so we knew we'd get a customer and probably their parents would buy one too. We used that, bought more hardware, camera gear and stuff like that. But from there, I just kind of loved this idea of working on cool projects with cool people. So that was kind of my motto, and it continues to be the motto today. Went to the University of Wyoming, didn't have a better plan other than being a ski bum, but I wasn't really sure how that was going to exactly get to where I wanted to go. Got an ag econ degree because my dad had the ag background and I grew up kind of around it. So did that, 2010, graduated, got married and started this business and kind of been on this path ever since. Started in social media, got into full branding agency work, got a little disenfranchised with kind of being pigeonholed as like an artist or a creative or whatnot. Nothing against those people or whatnot. I still consider myself partly that, but I'm more of an entrepreneur. I want to help businesses grow, want to see them, succeed, hit new targets. And then in 2019, we sort of started pivoting a bit more to focus on positioning and how do we help create a unique message, much like we did with you guys back then with SNS, which is really, really fun. And then a couple years ago, we figured out that some of our favorite work was these industrial businesses that relied on blue collar, skilled trades, making stuff, shipping stuff, trucking stuff. And the need for finding people was way high. It was a really specific problem. It was something everyone needed. And so we knew that by doing good, cool brand creative that we could draw kind of people in. So that's kind of my backstory. 3 kids, still live in Sheridan, 3 boys, they're really crazy, 8, 6, and 3. So it's really fun, but excited to be here with you guys today with the AGC of Wyoming. So today's talk, were you guys at the lunch talk? Was there anything that stood out to you, like that was particularly interesting from that, or things that you've already been thinking about? Or
Nothing really stuck out to me with it. I mean, to me, it tried to simplify the generational gap a little too much. I don't care how you categorize it. There's definitely generational gaps, especially within the industry. And
you live that though, like, oh yeah, I mean, every day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Work. And old timers, that generation, at least with my experience, is tough on critique. They don't take it well. When you try to go outside of the box a little, it's tough for them. They're very routine, and everything has its place and its way, and that's what it is. And that's to me, that's the bigger issue than just simply the generational gap. Is how do you become productive while managing those differences? And to me, that's the challenge.
Yeah, there are definitely differences, but I guess what I drew from that is similar to politics. We've got a lot more in common than we do different, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we still have the same human needs and that need for community, and that one was probably the biggest thing to me, was that 150 people and the way the communities and the way civilization came about. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. What were some of the examples? I mean, the more modern one was the military,
right?
Sort of group was like 160, and there was the villages. There was What else was there?
The Roman legions were 150.
Yeah, and then there was also
150
those little
troops.
hamlets. I forget what they called them, but they were
Well,
kinda
and then
150.
even the Facebook algorithm being in a place like you
Right.
probably only see about 150. I hadn't thought about it that way, but it's absolutely true. Because I'm, a college student from mid 2000s, Facebook is like where all my people are. And I have 1,500 people. And I definitely don't see 1,500 people. I probably see 150,
We'll take your word for it. I don't Facebook.
Yeah, on Facebook.
Yeah, there you go.
It's really interesting. I mean, obviously we talk about how the young generation wants community more, and it's obviously good for business. But I was fascinated by the part that it's kind of counterintuitive that there'd be loneliness, right? Because like you got all this stuff, but he made a lot of sense that it's like you get overwhelmed by that, so you kind of shut down, and that's
Sure.
And so now you have this generation that's kind of expecting work to be more than just work. Do you find that?
Yeah, I think that the desires of the younger generation, I mean, even our generation and then below, the work-life balance is much more important than it is to the generation above us. And I think that's one of the big struggles is we call it performance, not attendance, right? Like I'm paying you to do a job. I don't care how you get that job done. I don't care if it takes you 60 hours or 35, as long as that job's done, versus the old school method of I don't really care about your progress as much as I care that you're here from 7 to 5 or 7 to 6 or whatever,
Yeah.
the attendance over performance.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the big difference.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I'm kind of straddling the XY. So I've got some of that. Well, you need to put in the hours, but at the same time, as long as you're carrying your load, why do we care how many hours you put in?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, as long as a job's getting done on schedule and on time and no balls are getting dropped, why do we care what time you showed up? What time you leave?
Yeah. So you feel that tension kind of being pulled both ways.
I see it. I see it both.
The older generation, and they're all marathon runners. They grind every day. And the younger generation, they're all sprinters. They want to hit hard and fast and be productive and efficient and all of that stuff. They're not interested in the grind. They want to sprint and get done. And there's pluses and minuses to both sides, right? Detail oriented and that kind of stuff. But to me, that's a big difference in the workforce.
Do you think over the next, I don't know, call it a decade or something, do you think the younger generation will begin to be more marathon oriented, or is it just, is it a case of time makes someone more like that, or is it just like technology and when it was introduced kind of changes our mindsets as younger people?
I think time will tell on that, but I think there's a certain maturity that it hits. Males are a little later than our female counterparts, but those late 20s, you all of a sudden you want to buy a house, you have a family, you have kids, you want to start providing. I think some of your priorities change a little bit. So I think we'll see as this new generation matures and ages a little bit. I think time will tell.
That's great point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, I think that the workforce has changed. I think COVID certainly had a lot to do with that, and then technology has done a lot to do with that, and when my dad was my age doing what I do, bids were done on yellow tabs with pen and paper. And what would take him, 40 hours to do, I can do on the computer now in 10. And so the efficiencies have grown so much, and everything has moved so far forward in time management, or maybe ease of time management, right? Making everything easier, that I just don't know that I would say the marathons will be a thing of the past, but it's going to be less common. Yeah. You're gonna see it go more to not a 9 to 5, but like a standard 50-hour work week rather than 60, 70, 80-hour weeks.
But it's because but it's because the workload that you're carrying requires 50 hours.
Right.
You know, that's just going to be the load you're carrying requires this many hours, right? Even with the new technologies and things
Right.
speeding up. But what used to be 70, 80 hours is now a 50-hour work week. With
Yeah,
the
you're still doing the same workload and the same job. It's just those efficiencies have cut down on the time requirement.
Well,
on-screen takeoff and the estimating software these days.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's insane.
And construction doesn't end at 4 or 5 all the time, right? And so how do you sell that to a younger generation to understand that it's maybe not feast or famine, but you have to have this sort of shock absorber to this, right?
The way I sell it, the way I sell it to the younger generation is by talking in statistics. If you look at the statistics, if you follow society's path that's been laid out for you through your high school and your counselors and your parents of attending a 4-year program and then getting your degree and going and getting, you know, that's what society tells you have to do to become successful, right? But if you look at that statistically speaking, you know, depending on what study you look at and pull your numbers from, but anywhere between 50 and 70% of high school graduates won't finish a 4-year program, which is a striking number. But the other striking number is that 70% of your real world careers today don't require a 4-year education.
Yeah.
And so what society is doing is pushing you to a failed program, to a failed process, and it's been proven over decades that it's a failed system, but yet that's where we push our kids. And so the way that I try to sell it to the kids is quite simple, that you can go to your 4-year program, and on average you're going to walk out with about $100,000 in debt right now, you know, depending on scholarships and everything else, but your average college student leaves with about $100,000. And in 4 years, or you can come work for somebody like me or Jason or anybody else in this facility, and in that same 4 years, I'll give you just as much education, if not more, and it'll be real world education, not out of a book. So it's practical education.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to charge you $100,000 to do it, but over those 4 years, I'm going to pay you somewhere between $200 and $250, right? So that's how I sell it.
Yeah.
Is let's talk numbers.
I'll pay you to learn as opposed to paying to learn.
Yeah, I mean it's simple. I mean that is where our industry is I will pay you to get educated. I'll send you to classes. We pay for people's college classes, but more so than that, you know, just having you in the field and touching and learning, you're going to learn a whole lot more by touching it with your hand than you are reading it in a book. It's just how humans are built.
Right.
And so my sell is, instead of you taking on all this debt that you're going to pay off, you know, sometime when you're 50, how about you don't take on any debt and I pay you $250,000 in that same time frame.
Pretty good pitch.
Yeah.
It's a great pitch.
Oh, and by the way, you're going to learn skills while you don't own a house today. In the future, I bet you plan to. And guess who's going to be able to do those home repairs on their own? You know what kind of money you can save?
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal doing little home maintenance projects yourself and having the knowledge and the hands-on experience to be able to turn around and do that.
And the confidence to do that. Like, I
Absolutely.
can tackle this.
Absolutely.
So my favorite icebreaker when we're in schools talking to kids is, okay, by a show of hands, who in here likes to go to the bathroom and then enjoys the fact that you push a button and it flushes? Who in here likes to wake up in the middle of the night and go to the sink and turn on the sink and get a glass of water? Without people like us, society can't sustain, and those luxuries go away.
Yeah.
And that's the brass tacks. That's what it is.
Yeah. If things keep trending this direction, that broken toilet, if you don't know how to fix it yourself, guess what? You're 3 months out before a plumber can get to you.
100%.
And you don't want to know what it's going to cost at
Right.
that point. It's going to be like seeing a doctor. And it's...
Plus, now, do you talk much about the pride Like, I don't mean to, denigrate all the office jobs, whatever that actually means to people. But, there's something about at the end of every day. I mean, I do a lot of time on the computer and phone and but there's just nothing like stacking wood. That's like, that kind of thing that a few hours later, it's like, damn, that looks good.
We preach that all the time.
So I have 6 kids, and one doesn't talk yet. He's too little. But the rest of them are all convinced that every smooth road in Wyoming was built by DRM.
Yeah.
And every bumpy road was built by S&S.
And how did they come to that conclusion,
I don't
Kenny?
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, no, there's immense pride. Our companies, any major structure in Gillette, Wyoming has been touched by our companies. I mean, you would have a tougher time throwing a rock and hitting a building that we haven't worked on. And so we have immense pride when you drive around Gillette and you see the college and you have flashbacks of building that college as you drive by it, or the rec center or whatever, any of the schools, any of that stuff. There's huge pride in being able to come back and you have those memories of what took place, in this corner of this building when we were tying bar or whatever,
And all the memories and community that happen in those places after they're built. I mean, it's like, if it wasn't there, like if this wasn't built, we couldn't be here, right?
Right.
It's kind of something you take for granted. But that's
Yeah,
huge.
the whole process of a building going up is something that once you've experienced it, you hold it pretty near and dear to your heart, because it's really neat to be a part of it.
And back to that sense of community, the team that it took to build that structure, from the dirt and the utilities to the foundation to your iron workers to your electricians and plumbers, and I mean the team that gets coordinated and does that together. I don't know. That's a big pride thing. I mean, we've done some big jobs together, and that community and doing it together as part of a team is huge.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. What are some other ways you think that the industry can get more creative around trying to draw people in? Being kind of a magnet from a workforce standpoint. What are some gaps? What are some things that collectively we sort of could do better?
I've got a small add to that, because you talked about we've got this societally prescribed route that you're supposed to do, that kind of the other side of that is everything that's not that is not cool. How do you make this cool? Because it is cool, but how do you show it?
To me, the hardest part is selling the parents, right? So as a parent, right, we're all parents here. As a parent, tell me that you've never had the thought go through your head that, damn, I don't want my kids to have to do this. I don't want their life to be as hard as my life was, right? Every parent does it. I've done it. Jason calls me out on it. I've called him out on it before. But the reality is that generationally, if you take it back to the Great Depression, right, and you use that mentality, I don't want my kid to have as hard a life as I had. And you just come down generationally. And what you end up with is the society that we're in now, where no parent wants their kid to have to work, because that would be harder than what they have to do, right? And so that's what we have to break, is that we have to break. To me, it has nothing to do with the industry. The industry is sexy to you or it's not. Like, you either have the stomach for what we do or you don't.
Good point.
But there's a lot of people that have the stomach for it and have the interest for it, but school is pushing them a different way. Mom and dad are pushing me a different way. All these people.
They're not even seeing it as an option. It's like blinders.
Yeah. No, it's the last resort. That's what you do when you fail out, right? And so that's the stigma. When I say stigma, that's the stigma I'm talking about. Is we got to break the thinking of these kids' mentors or the kids, the people they look up to change those people's perception of the industry, to start influencing them towards the industry.
It's like a higher order problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that this isn't a fact or anything, but I don't personally know of an easier industry to make 6 figures in. Like this this industry is not hard to make six figures in, and you can be very successful. You just have to have a will, and you have to have some grit to you. But that's not how we're raising our kids, and that's not, we're wanting to push the easy button for them. To me, that's your issue.
Well said. Really well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add to that.
Yeah, pretty fire. Yeah, it's really good.
But you know what you said about it's you either got the stomach for it or not. Something Josh and I are putting together a book on this whole subject, and one of our favorite stories is Sir Shackleton's supposed ad for the expedition to the Antarctic. Have you ever seen it? It's like, can you do it?
Yeah. I can get pretty close. So supposedly, 100 years ago, Shackleton went on his third voyage to Antarctica. Wanted to cross the whole thing right when World War I was happening. Actually, sent a message to Churchill and said, hey, we're looking at going on this voyage. Like, can we go? The war is starting. And all he sent back was proceed, which is just kind of awesome. Like, he saw this as an important thing. But supposedly the ad that circulates around was, he put it in the paper and it said, long hours, bitter cold, low chance of success, but honor and recognition if we are successful. And so it's kind of like the wrong people need not apply. Like, the right people who recognize what they're getting into, like, it's not for everyone.
That's right.
Is basically the sense.
I mean, at the end of the day, you got to enjoy what you're doing, right? I mean, it's not for everybody. Being a doctor is not for everybody.
Right.
You just have to. You spend a lot of hours at work. You better enjoy what you're doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
A couple of the other stories that I think are kind of fun are there's the fire that happened in our backyard in Sheridan there last summer, and a bunch of the firefighters camped out at Antelope Butte, the ski area up on 14, and the GM went and asked, kind of did a polling, said, why do you do this? Why do you fight fires? And the number one answer was, it's because it's dangerous. So the same reason a lot of people wouldn't do it is the same reason other people go, that's what I want to do with my life. And I think in the trades and in an industry like this, I think we got to be careful not to fall prey to send a message, like an HR message. It's like, it's great, it's awesome, it's a beautiful place to work, whatever. But when we can put together a real honest, authentic message that maybe doesn't appeal to everyone, but when we put that message out, the funnel might close in a bit, but it's much more strong interest. And when they get there, they don't burn out. They're not like, this isn't what I thought it would be. And I think that's an important.
I think what all the trades and industry does, it's badass. It's the backbone of America, and doing badass things feels great. You know, that's
for those that think it feels great, right? That's kind of the caveat to that.
I was begging to get on a boat before I had any business being on one. I was nagging captains because I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part, is finding the ones with the drive. And in this industry, you're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have horrible days, and being willing to gut it out and fight through it that's what's challenging. And
Well, rising to the challenge, right? I mean, there's some people that do, and there's some people that have no interest in it. There's some people that get up, dust themselves off, and go, okay,
here we go.
And I always find that interesting because America loves its sports, right? Like we love to watch a team just gut it out, come from behind, all that stuff. Like vicariously, we're just wired for that. And you would think that, you would want to be involved in work that some nights you just put your head in the pillow and you're just so damn tired, but it's like the best tired ever. And it always baffles me that people aren't like, well, all right, I can't be Michael Jordan, but I could be doing something badass still.
Yeah, that tired when you lay down and you just can't move. You're just done.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But it just, to me, everything just goes back to how we're raising our kids. And like I said, it's easy for me to preach it. I get caught doing it myself. Like, man, I hope my kids never do this. And it's on bad days, right?
Yeah.
Like, God, this day sucks. I don't want my kid to have to deal with this. And construction when I started 20 years ago was a lot more fun and a lot less legal than it is today. And so what's it look like for my son in the future, 20 years from now? What's that look like? So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly is scary, but the reality of it is that if you get in and you spend 5 years with me, you now will have the ability to go move anywhere you want in the world, and you can show up and pick who you want to work for and say, this is when I can start.
They have the power.
Yeah.
After 5 years with you, they have the power.
Yeah. Once you have that skill right now, in today's society, you have a skill, whether it's laying pipe, finishing concrete, masonry, plumbing, electrical, no matter what it is, any skill within the industry. And 5 years will get you talented enough to where you can walk in anywhere and say, here's my resume, I can start on Monday, and they'll say, what do you want to make?
Yeah.
I mean, you have that much power right now. And that's what these kids are missing. And like, you want to set up your future, that's how you do it.
Yeah, what college student has that option? Not many.
No, so my younger brother has got a master's in teaching, and then he's got a construction degree and something else. He's basically set himself up to be a construction ed teacher. And he got out of school and he applied in all of South Dakota and Wyoming, and he applied for like 500 jobs, and for those 500 jobs were 3,500 applicants, and didn't get a job because he had no experience. And so he ended up going back and starting his own home building company, and is very successful, but he still has all that college debt. And that's the story, that's the trail that I try to keep kids off of. Like, because he pissed away all that money and all that time to ultimately come back and work with his hands, which he's incredibly gifted at, but just a waste of time and money.
I think I was listening so intently that I
wasn't prepping the next question.
I was not at all. No, I just was 100% consumed. I don't know, Toby, if you have a question or anything you want to share, honestly.
Well, you know, S&S is an employee-owned company. How is that working as a recruiting tool?
Well, some people are definitely attracted by it, and there's some people that for whatever reason it's a job, right?
Yeah.
The guys that are looking at as a career, right? That's a definite perk to them, right? I put in the time, I could become part of this and get my share at the end of the year. Certainly attractive to me. I mean, 20 years later, here I am, but it's just, again, they got to want it, right? They've got to have that drive. They got to want to put in the work and the time to earn that, right? Because it's not just given to you. The partners, because our ownership group goes from mechanic to field guys all the way through the general manager of the company. I mean, it's a broad cross section of the company.
Yeah.
But you got to want it. You got to work for it. So.
Are you going to work the next 20 years anyways?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard a story about someone said, they're maybe 30 or something. He's, God, I wish I became a lawyer, is I think what the story was about. And he's like, well, he said, but I can't do it now because it's going to take me X years. And he said, well, in X years, if you don't do it, you're still not going to be a lawyer. So
What's the difference?
what's the difference? Maybe you should start. Yeah.
What with the last group, we talked a little bit about confidence for kids. I know we kind of focus more on some dialogue around how we're raising kids and what that looks like. In today's kind of modern world with social media and the anxious generation and things like that, what do you think are some ways that we can mentor kind of this next group and help instill confidence and do it in a way that is befitting to like the generation differences? I really think confidence is this really interesting component that.
Are you talking as a parent or as a business owner?
I mean, I think I'm thinking more of as a business owner, just seeing these kids that are they're just maybe a bit more half-cocked than previous, or they're anxious, or like, I don't know, social media raised them or something like that.
Well, these kids are, my opinion, and it'll go back to society, unfortunately, but these kids are all are afraid of failure. They're taught that they can't fail, and the way that they don't fail is the participation trophy era and everything else, right? And that's what's unfortunate about this generation, and it's my generation's fault, I would say, because it's my the kids my kids' age that are experiencing this. And it's they're not allowed to fail. And as an adult,
Helicopter parents kind of thing.
well, but as an adult in life, you're gonna fail more than you're gonna succeed, right? In life as an adult, and so your life, in my opinion, life isn't defined by your success. Rather, it's defined by your failure and how you come back from that, right? If any adult failed one time and gave up, you would never be successful at anything.
Right.
Like, you might get lucky and hit that home run the first to go out, but most people, your richest people in the world, the Warren Buffetts, the Bill Gates, they've all failed more than they've succeeded. Their successes just have been massive. Yeah. Right? And that, to me, that's what the next generation is lacking is it's okay to fail. And that failure is going to teach me something, and then I need to take what I learned and harness it towards my next venture. And that, to me, that's what we're missing.
Yeah, yeah.
And part of that talk today was us as parents not willing to let them fail.
Right, exactly.
And be there to pick them up. But hey, go ahead, try that out. Let's see how that works out for you. But we don't do that. We guard them and we protect them, and they're not allowed to experience that. So when it happens, when they're grown up and their professional career, don't know how to handle it, right?
And so your question is, how do we instill confidence?
Yeah, like, what does that look like?
I can't answer that as a business owner, but I can answer it as a parent. And as a parent, to me, youth sports is massively important, because society, school, these normal scenarios that, you just have a kid and they just go along, they're never going to teach them to fail. They're never going to teach them how to lose. They're not going to teach them any grit. And so that's where, to me, youth sports is massively important in raising a kid today, because they have to learn how to fail, right?
You're not going to win every time.
You can't win every time.
Well, look at the classrooms these days. How many times do your kids get to retake tests?
Dude, yeah,
and bring their grade up?
Yeah.
They're
really?
They're not allowed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Half credit.
Yeah.
Retake at half credit, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was probably a little bit around when I was in high school to a certain degree. Not a lot, but
Yeah,
it's gotten
insane.
worse. It's gotten worse.
It's
so
cool.
you don't prepare, it's okay. You can retake the test in a couple of weeks and bring your grade up.
These kids know that if I take the test and I half-ass it and I get a D, well, that's okay, because I can retake it and not even retake the whole test, just correct my stuff that's wrong, and I get a B.
Move it up to a B.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's not helping.
And so what are we teaching these kids? Like the whole school system, dude, I can do a 4-hour talk on it, but it's failed. The school system is a failed system.
That's right.
And what we're not teaching these kids to get ready for life.
Right.
There is no, they were talking earlier about career and college readiness. There is no career readiness. They don't focus on that. They don't teach these kids how to manage money. When I was in school, that was a required class, was how to manage your money and stuff. It's no longer a required class. Failure is such a negative condensation in today's society, and that's what's making us weaker. That's what's taking the drive out of these kids, because they're trying to take, kind of the totem pole of life away. And so everybody's on the same level. So if me and you are on the same level, why would I have any inspiration to outwork you and surpass you?
Right.
We're taking the drive away from our kids.
Yeah.
And to me, it really is that simple.
yeah. It's interesting you talked about sports, because I think it was this season LeBron James, has the most points of any player, but also has the most misses of any player. And I think it's cool to call that out. Like, hey,
Oh, Babe Ruth had the most home runs and the most strikeouts.
That's the first one that comes up to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, but you don't remember all the strikeouts, right? You remember Babe's gimmicks of having a taxi take him to first, right? You remember that stuff. But you don't remember all the strikeouts. He either hit a home run or he struck out most of his career.
Yeah.
Still one of the greatest hitters that ever lived.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
And with, sorry, not to step
go,
on
please
you.
go.
But with the youth sports, I always preach to my kids, 300, right? You bat 300, that makes you a Hall of Fame batter in the MLB. Well, what does 300 mean? The kids don't know what 300 means.
Yeah.
It means 3 out of 10 times they got a base hit. 3 out of 10.
70% of the time they failed.
70% of the time they failed, just like our school system, by the way. but 70% of the time, a Hall of Fame hitter fails. So why are we teaching these kids that we can't fail? Why is that the message? It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But your journeys, you guys have now, like, you were once 18, you're now 40 something, whatever your ages are, and
40.
oh, really? Yeah.
I'm a little north of that.
But you've built an identity, like you talked about, like you work for me for 5 years, you're gonna have an identity partially described by a resume, but also by how you interact.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's gonna give you the opportunity to have more choice.
Gives you the tools, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so I think what's interesting is our school system sort of teaches kids that your identity will be externally imposed for you in the form of a degree.
Yep.
Like, which is very different than the identities that you gentlemen have earned that put you in a position to become part owner or all the other great things or have a promotion or that gives you all the opportunities. And I think that we have to help teach kids that it's your job to build your identity.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, life can be whatever you want it to be. And I happen to believe that the trades is the best. It's the best lifestyle for me. It's where I'm at home.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, if I'm 18 and I'm talking to you about a job, in 5 years, you're basically saying to me, Toby, you do this, you're going to have a lot of capabilities. You're going to try a lot of things. You're going to learn things. And you're going to have an identity that gives you a massively different opportunity than you have sitting here at my desk today.
Yeah, so
but it's not going to be handed to you either.
No.
You're
I
going
have to
you're
go-
going to have to earn it.
go
And
through the
especially if
crucible.
college is like, you're really feeling like college is not for you. Like, don't feel like you got to go that direction. 'Cause it's
what
not
if-
for everyone.
Yeah. But your brother went through a prescribed path thinking, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I get these degrees. Yeah, I put all that money in. And then I'll get to be, a construction ed teacher or something.
Right.
And it didn't work out that way. His doppelganger could have done 4 years, had a completely different experience.
yeah, absolutely.
You're not building your identity in college.
No, you're not. And you're not in a system that's going to give you any support. You once you're done with college, like, they gave you your diploma and it's good luck to you. You don't have any support. Where you come our route, you come our way, like when it doesn't work out, when I mentor somebody and it doesn't work out with them at DRM, I am on the phone finding them a place to go.
Yep.
Because I'm more interested in, and I've done it with you. I will send you my employee if I think, because it's not the right fit for everybody. I spent half of my career in live sewage. Not everybody has the gut for that. And just because you don't doesn't mean you're not a good entity for the industry in a whole.
Yep.
So college isn't going to do that for you.
Right.
We gave you your piece of paper. We took your money. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
But I bet you don't do that for just anybody. You do it for
Pretty
the
close.
Really? But
Yeah.
but because you see something in them.
Because the industry's too fragile. It's too fragile.
It's good stewardship.
It's
It is
too.
good stewardship.
It's too fragile to give up people once we get our hooks into them. And
So-
and it doesn't work every time. A lot of them flake out and they go away, and that is what it is. But if I can keep you in the industry, it still makes my company stronger, even though you're not working for me. If that makes sense,
Yeah, no,
because
that's very cool
because we all, none of us are turnkey contractors, right? Meaning any job we have subs that we're working with side by side. So if I can help Jason get another guy to keep his crew full, and they can turn around and get more production done and get to my job sooner, that helps my bottom line out as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's looking at it, and it took us a lot of years to look at it as a whole, right? Like we are very good at separating industry versus company, right? And so a lot of the stuff we do, we're looking at industry, not necessarily company.
You've seen the tide, and you're saying, hey, we're all boats in this. We got to
Yeah.
take care of each other.
Is that
and
using
real
the
quick,
word
Toby,
again? Oh yeah, go ahead.
we're close to running out of time.
Yes.
So if you want to wrap up your
But
thing.
do you feel like that tide is shifting in the industry? That it's starting to be more about we than us? Like,
In certain
if that
sectors,
makes
yes.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky. Maybe not lucky. We've got a great team. This team in Campbell County, we kind of came up together. It's a group of guys and gals that were willing to put in the work and saw the benefit to the industry helped everybody in the community. So that's
Unique.
I think it's a little unique to what we've done in Campbell County.
But this whole idea of stewardship sounds
Yeah.
like a really important move for all the AGCs.
So our group is 12 people-ish, and age-wise, we probably vary 10 years is all. So most of us are Gillette locals that grew up in Gillette, and then we ventured off to college or whatever, and then ended up back. And so we have an invested interest in each other, more so than just DRM versus SNS. So I'm sure that we're a very unique group, but it works really well for us.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I hate to cut us off because I looked down and I was shocked to see we're at like 45 minutes. And supposedly these little guys record about 45 minutes. They look like they're still going. So I do just really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know we're keeping you from kind of some networking and some drinks and stuff too. So I just thank you so much. And it's great to reconnect. And we look forward to being part of this community for the long haul. So
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kenny.
You bet. Thank
Thanks
you.
for being a part of it.